Most people don't know about any of it. Purposely sort of understating it and trying to get the discussion moved to something else by saying we had a great trip in the Himalayas and ran into some trouble at the end, and now let's talk about something else. Emotionally, our world completely changed, flipped upside down, and what had been something that was exciting and rewarding and fun became exciting but in the wrong way, and not rewarding and not fun. It's just the most dreadful outcome that you could possibly imagine. David was one of my best friends growing up in Roseburg. We were going to be the bright kids, you know, and probably not terribly popular and had a hard time getting a date, but nevertheless that was our pathway of survival. We got almost to the top, and it was kind of a thrill because we thought, well, we picked a peak in the Himalayas and we're going to end up climbing a peak, and maybe it's the first time it's ever been climbed. We were going up a ridge, and we got to a sheer wall of ice ahead of us and huge exposures on both the east side and the west side, and it was obvious in less than about 10 seconds that the climb was over. So I suggested, let's go down here, which was like 10 or 15 feet of elevation change, and out of the wind. David started down and slipped and fell and slipped down the mountain almost to the pass, and we got down to him and there was no sign of life.
And how soon do you suddenly realize, all right, David has died and you're going to have to leave him here?
Well, that took a while. You're thinking the sort of universal context that you're in and what's happened, and at the same time you're trying to figure out how to keep him warm. So I just sat down and told the tale, and it was pretty much the first draft. And a guy named Walter Bingham, who was a senior editor, called me in my dorm room at NYU a few days later and said, I'm Walter Bingham from Sports Illustrated, and I've read your story, and I'm going to buy it. Well, it was really a big charge. I was very pleased with myself. My wife feels that I spent the better part of 50 years coming to terms with it, and maybe haven't completely done even that. A sense of responsibility. I mean, I'm the guy that said, let's go down there 10 feet and rope up down there because it's out of the wind. I've actually forgotten. When I read it the other day, I realized that I had forgotten stuff that I'd written, and forgotten some happenings that were sort of carried around in my brain in a kind of loose fashion and weren't what I wrote in 67. My risk-taking interest changed completely. The idea of climbing up on the top of mountains and standing there and looking out over 1,000-foot drops or more, that lost some of its appeal.